Well, hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Dray. I'm a board-certified dermatologist. Today, we are talking all things retinoids, what they are, and how to choose between them. Retinoids are vitamin A derivatives, and they're one of the most well-studied ingredients in dermatology. They help to normalize skin cell turnover, improve acne, fade discoloration, and improve collagen production over time. You'll often hear people divide retinoids into over-the-counter versus prescription, but the division is not entirely accurate. The ingredients retinol, retinaldehyde, and retinyl esters are actually classified not as over-the-counter, but rather cosmetic ingredients. Over-the-counter is a category reserved for medications that are available over-the-counter without a prescription. Retinol, retinyl esters, they're cosmetics. They're not medications. They're not intended to treat any skin disease. They're not regulated in the same way that prescription or over-the-counter medications are. So there are prescription retinoids. In the United States, at least, there is one over-the-counter retinoid medication, Adapalene, usually sold under the brand name Differin Gel, but there are many brands out there. It's all the same drug. It works the exact same, no matter the brand, as a side note. Whereas retinol, retinaldehyde, and retinyl esters, these are cosmetic ingredients. The other retinoids, Tretinoin, Tazarotene, Trifarotene, these are prescription only, at least here in the US. Now, depending on where you are in the world, that may differ. Let's start with how retinoids actually work. Retinoids bind to receptors in skin cells called retinoic acid receptors. And it's this binding that turns on genes important in regulating cell maturation, cell growth, and inflammation. In acne, they help to normalize the skin cells lining the pore, so ultimately you get a reduction in pore clogging, as well as a reduction in inflammation. In aging skin, they help to improve collagen production, ultimately reducing the visible signs of skin aging, such as fine lines. They also help to put the brakes on abnormal accumulation of pigment, therefore improving age spots and hyperpigmentation. Now let's go through the different types, starting with the cosmetics. Again, cosmetics include retinol, retinaldehyde, and retinyl esters. These cosmetic forms of vitamin A, your skin has to convert them to retinoic acid before they can begin to help. Retinyl esters actually require multiple conversions to get to retinoic acid. Retinol requires 2 conversion steps, whereas retinaldehyde requires only 1. Therefore, you'll often hear retinaldehyde described as the most potent of all of these. And while in theory that makes sense, we don't have excellent proof that that is always the case. We know that performance of a given product varies tremendously depending on the quality of the overall formulation, meaning you can have a really well-formulated retinol that is much more effective than a poorly formulated retinaldehyde. This is really where the rubber meets the road when it comes to dividing cosmetic versus actual medications, and that you're not going to get variation in terms of efficacy of the actual ingredient in medications. That will be standardized because, again, it is regulated. Whereas cosmetics, they're not as regulated, so they have other ingredients, other tweaks that they can make, which can be helpful and sometimes may just be shortcuts that don't make for a very good formula. Because they're cosmetic, however, it's not as though there's any transparency to you, the consumer, as far as which one's going to be the best. It's really only going to be a matter of your personal experience and subjective reports, anecdotes. Suffice it to say, retinol and retinaldehyde, they actually can work to improve the visible signs of skin aging. Again, they're cosmetics, so they can't claim to treat things like acne or hyperpigmentation, but with consistent use, they certainly can work. Retinyl esters, on the other hand, they do not work to improve the visible signs of skin aging. They don't improve collagen production or reduce wrinkles. Retinyl esters, their conversion seems perhaps to be inefficient. They don't quite work to the same extent that retinol and retinaldehyde can work. Retinyl esters do act as antioxidants. They may be included in formulations alongside retinol or retinaldehyde to help stabilize those ingredients, but don't think of them as true anti-aging, collagen-boosting vitamin A derivatives. When it comes to cosmetics in comparison to medications, because they need to undergo these conversion steps, it takes a bit longer to begin to see the skin visibly improve. However, they also can be significantly less irritating, so they're often referred to as a good starting point for a beginner looking to improve the visible signs of skin aging. But now let's move on to the prescription retinoids with Tretinoin. Tretinoin is the original and what is referred to as a first-generation topical retinoid. It's already in its active form, so your skin doesn't have to perform any conversion steps to it. It has strong evidence for both acne and for anti-aging. Because it's the oldest, it's been around the longest, it has the most data behind it, and it's actually approved for treating the visible signs of skin aging. So it's one of the most frequently prescribed to improve the visible signs of skin aging. It works by blocking collagen destruction and improving collagen production. The downside is that it can be pretty irritating. Now, I have a lot of videos on my channel giving all sorts of tips and tricks for how to introduce this ingredient to get rid of the irritation or minimize it, so definitely check those out. But it is quote unquote the gold standard, not because it's necessarily the most powerful, the most robust, it's just been around the longest, and because it is approved for the treatment of improving the signs of skin aging, it gets prescribed for that. Another downside of tretinoin is that, at least with older formulations, we're more sensitive to visible light and could be easily degraded in the presence of certain other ingredients, namely benzoyl peroxide, which is often prescribed in combination with tretinoin to treat acne. Moving on, let's talk about Adapalene, one of my actual favorites, and I think it flies under the radar a lot. I love that it's available over the counter without a prescription, and it is FDA approved to treat acne. But we also have evidence that it can improve collagen production and the visible signs of skin aging, including lightening sunspots, and we actually have objective evidence that it can improve collagen production. We don't have a ton of data comparing it head-to-head to tretinoin, but it appears as though it can help to improve the visible signs of skin aging. It's what we call a third-generation retinoid, and it's a lot more selective as far as what it binds to. For this reason, it tends to be much less irritating. It is one of the easiest retinoids to tolerate. It's also a lot more stable in comparison to tretinoin. It can be used in conjunction with benzoyl peroxide, for example, without any concern, and it's stable in the presence of daylight, so that's another thing that you don't have to worry about. It's available over the counter at 0.1% strength, so a great starting point, especially for somebody who maybe has acne or post-acne marks, or is just looking to improve the signs of skin aging, but without having to necessarily rely on having to go and get a prescription filled all the time. It's relatively affordable, and again, it's a lot less irritating. It's just a really good place to start because it's pretty user-friendly. You don't have to go through this retinization period to the same extent as you do with tretinoin. Yeah, it will be a little irritating, but nowhere near as much as tretinoin can be. Then you have Tazarotene. Now, Tazarotene is also a third-generation topical retinoid. It's used for the treatment of acne, but it's also used for the treatment of psoriasis. Like tretinoin and like Adapalene, it too has been shown to improve the visible signs of skin aging and improve collagen production, lessening wrinkles, and lightening age spots. It works by, again, improving cell maturation and reducing inflammation, but like tretinoin, this one can be pretty irritating. In many cases, it's more irritating than tretinoin. Some studies suggest that it might be a little bit better for acne. Some patients may get faster or better results with Tazarotene in comparison to tretinoin for acne, but it can be more irritating. Then we have Trifarotene, which is a newer fourth-generation topical retinoid. This is sold under the brand name Acleef. It's really jazzy in that it's very specific for one type of retinoid receptor. Because of this, you actually need a lot less of the drug in a given cream, so a very low percentage, in order to get good control of the acne. For this reason, it has been studied and it is FDA approved for the treatment of acne, not just on the face, but on the trunk as well, because you can apply it to a wide surface area without the same concern that one might think about with applying, say, tretinoin to a large area, where that's a lot of drug applied to a large surface area. Are we starting to get into the category of absorption, especially if we're thinking about treating a skin disorder where you may have a little bit more robust penetration? It's definitely something that has to be considered, and because this is a drug that's so specific, you can use a very low amount in a given formula, can be used to a large area safely, and so that's why it's FDA approved for the treatment of acne on the trunk. So chest and back, very low systemic absorption, in other words. But briefly, I want to mention, just for educational purposes, some less commonly discussed topical retinoids. Bexarotene is a retinoid that selectively binds to retinoid X receptors. It's used for the treatment of a skin cancer called cutaneous T-cell lymphoma. It's not used for acne, it's not used for anti-aging. It primarily works by slowing down abnormal cell growth and by triggering cell death of abnormal cells. Alitretinoin is another topical retinoid that binds to retinoid X receptors as well as retinoic acid receptors. It's not commonly used to treat acne or for anti-aging, anti-aging, but it's important in dermatology because of its broader receptor activity and may be used to treat things like Kaposi's sarcoma, another cancer that appears in the skin. These are not routinely prescribed either for acne or for anti-aging, but I'm merely drawing your attention to the fact that they exist because they're almost never mentioned in these types of discussions. I rarely ever talk about them. They're not even that commonly used aside from these certain specific conditions that by themselves are very uncommon, aside from very niche genres of dermatology practice where you see a lot of them, or certain regions you may see a larger proportion of patients with these diseases, so you may use these drugs more commonly. And it's unlikely that they are of interest to the majority of you watching this video as far as your personal use. So how should you choose? Should you go with a cosmetic? Should you go with a prescription? Should you go with over-the-counter Adapalene? There are really no rules. If you are new to retinoids, don't assume that you should start with a cosmetic. That's the only option. However, maybe you don't necessarily have access to a dermatologist. You're really just looking to improve the visible signs of skin aging. I would suggest starting with either retinol or retinaldehyde. Keep in mind there are limitations in that you won't ever really know to what extent a given formula is actually working, so to speak. They can work, doesn't necessarily guarantee that they will. Now, in the description box, I will provide a link to the ones that I recommend. They come from very reputable brands. They're the ones I've always recommended. Brands that put a lot of R&D behind their formulations, brands that I've personally used their retinols myself, so I've been a guinea pig in testing them out, and they're the ones that I often recommend. Alternatively, you might just choose to go with Adapalene. Yes, it is an acne treatment, but it is generally pretty well tolerated and can likewise improve the visible signs of skin aging, skin texture, hyperpigmentation, age spots. That might be something you feel more comfortable with because it's a lot more standardized. Like what you see with Adapalene that you're buying in the store is what you get, okay? It doesn't matter if you're buying Differin gel or La Roche-Posay's Adapalene or Neutrogena has it doesn't matter. It's the same Adapalene 0.1% gel. You can kind of put that worry aside, that unknown aside, and you might do well with it. Some people don't get along with it. Some people don't like the gel. They find it makes them look greasy, shiny. I have used Adapalene over the counter myself for improving the visible signs of skin aging. I've used it in the past for a long period of time before starting on Tretinoin, and I saw great results with it. So I think it's an excellent and underrated option as far as what you can buy without a prescription that you can feel pretty confident is at least doing something for you. Alternatively, if you are dealing with acne, Adapalene is also a great option for you. Keep in mind, Adapalene sold over the counter is just the 0.1% formulation. Some people's acne is very stubborn and they might require a higher percentage, or they might be doing better with Tretinoin, or they might do better with Tazarotene. I mean, not all acne is created equal, and when it comes to clearing it up, it's not a cookbook approach. Also, depending, at least here in the US, I can't speak for other countries, but here in the US, as far as coverage, your insurance might cover or dictate what it is that you use. That's actually the reality. A lot of what is prescribed and how this is practiced in real life, a lot of it boils down to these practicalities of access. What can we reasonably get the patient that's not going to cost them any money? And a lot of times it will be Tretinoin. That's one of the ones that, of all the retinoids, is often the one that is going to be approved, that we don't have to jump through hurdles begging the insurance company, please, please, please let us use this more expensive one because it might be better taught. Also, Tretinoin, it's FDA approved for the use of photoaging. It's been around a long time. It's just like a default one that a physician usually prescribes for anti-aging. Keep in mind, Adapalene was only approved to be sold here in the US over the counter without a prescription 8 or 9 years ago at this point, 10 years ago almost at this point. Before that, you would have to prescribe Adapalene, and you would probably just prescribe Tretinoin because Adapalene is not approved to treat aging skin. So you'd go with the one that's approved, rather than doing something off-label. So you see how that just guides things and leads to our overall clinical experience with one thing. But this rhetoric that one is more powerful than the other, no, one just gets used more than the other for certain things based on practicality. Keep in mind though, Tretinoin, Tazarotene, and Adapalene, they all can be a bit more irritating in comparison to the cosmetic things, but they also can get you results faster. Now, one important point, topical retinoids, they are not recommended to use during pregnancy because there is a theoretical risk of systemic absorption with them that could impact the developing baby. Keep in mind, this has never proven to be true in real world use. There has never been a case of a baby who was born with a birth defect due to the mother's use of a topical retinoid. We caution not to use because it's kind of extrapolated based on what we know about the systemic retinoid isotretinoin and the systemic retinoid Tazarotene and the toxic effects of vitamin A on the developing baby at high doses. So it's just kind of like, let's just hedge our bets here defensively, okay? But I'm telling you that not to thumbs up, oh yeah, go ahead and use it if you're pregnant, but rather to just put your mind at ease in case you happen to discover you are pregnant and have been using it. I don't want you to worry necessarily. You really don't have any reason to worry, and it's just out of an abundance of caution that it is advised to just not use any form of topical retinoid or the cosmetic versions. None of these are recommended to use during pregnancy. Nothing we're discussing here. The best one is going to be the one that you can stick with and use consistently. It is recommended that these be used every night, okay? At least for the beginning. When it comes to anti-aging, yes, there is some evidence that after a year or so, if you want, you could decrease in frequency to 1 to 2 nights a week as maintenance and maintain the anti-aging benefits without necessitating nightly use. But when it comes to treating a skin disease, it's generally recommended to use them or work up to using them on a daily basis. And typically they're applied at night, because some of them, namely tretinoin, older formulations of tretinoin, have stability issues in the presence of daylight. But also a big reason is absorption into the skin is probably better at night due to some of the changes in our skin physiology that specifically happen at night as far as blood flow and transepidermal water loss and overall better penetration. But it's that consistent use over time that really leads to meaningful effects. All right, guys, so I hope you found this video helpful and just kind of breaking down the different generations of topical retinoids, as well as clarifying the differences between the prescription, the over-the-counter, and the cosmetic categories and what can work. If you are not so interested in using a form of topical vitamin A, or maybe you are contemplating pregnancy and you're like, I'm not gonna go down that path right now because I want to focus on this. What else is available? Are there any alternatives? Well, on the end slide, I'm going to put my retinol alternatives video, which I know a lot of you guys have asked for in the past. So make sure you watch that one if that topic is of interest to you. But if you guys enjoyed this one, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. And as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.